Would you mind telling me a bit about your time on Toy Story?
Yeah, sure. So let me think how that came about. It's kind of not to make this too long, but I had seen John Lasseter's student film called Lady in the Lamp.
Ah.
And I think just the takeoff on Lady in the Tramp. It was a student film, the pencil test. They did the Cal Arts, and I really liked it.
Mm.
And so his name kind of stuck in my head. And then I read in Starlog magazine that there's some people who were experimenting with doing character animation on computer.
Mm.
And at the time, there was some really amazing stuff being done in computer. And that may have been about the time of Tron, maybe even before.
Mm.
I know there was stuff. I remember seeing images of tanks that were, perfect character animation. When people tried it, it was very stiff.
Mm.
And I thought, wow, that guy had, because the film had a lot of the qualities that you want to see in a film. It had great humor, great personality, and heart. It was you kind of cared about this little lamb character. And I thought, he might be able to bring something to computer animation that's been missing.
Mm.
And so I went to SIGGRAPH, and I'd only heard the name. I didn't know what he looked like, but I heard there was a panel, character animation in computer, that Bill Cloyer was running. Bill Cloyer had worked on Tron, and later on, I think by that time he hadn't made Fern Gully. He directed Fern Gully.
Mm.
So after the lecture was over, I actually went up to Bill Cloyer and I said, "Hey, you mentioned John Lasseter in your lecture, and I wanted to meet him, and then I realized I didn't even know what I'm supposed to ask." And I said, "Can you tell me what he looks like?" That seems like a stupid question. Are you very good police sketch artist? Can you make a sketch for me? So Bill said, "Well, he's sitting right over there." And he was sitting at a table after the lecture was over, chatting with Chris Wedge, who was one of the founders of Blue Sky.
Mm.
So I went up and introduced myself to the two of them. And I had a film that I had made. This is the same film that Jerry Reese had seen that got me hired on The Brave Little Toaster. And it was not computer animated, so it's not really appropriate to be shown at SIGGRAPH.
Mm.
But I showed it anyway. I put up posters, and people came to my screening. John came, and so that was kind of my introduction to him.
Mm.
And having worked on The Brave Little Toaster, Joe Lamp had worked with John early on when they were both at Disney, and they were old friends. So I had a couple of connections. And Joe, I kept in touch with Joe, and he said, "You should send your reel to Pixar." And so I did. Actually, let me back up a little bit. I may have the timeline wrong, but I believe what happened is John. I actually kept in touch with John as well after that first meeting at SIGGRAPH, and he called me and said, "We're putting together a feature, send your reel."
Mm.
And I went, "Wow, the director contacted me. I think that's a really good sign." And then I didn't hear anything.
Oh.
Weeks went by, I didn't hear anything. And I went, well, I guess they hated my reel.
Mm.
It turns out that was what's known as Black Monday. That was the period where Disney, they got my reel right about the time when Disney shut down Toy Story.
Mm.
So, whether or not I got hired is the least of their worries, because the whole film was about to be shut down.
Mm.
So I really just forgot about it. I usually, don't apply to any place twice, but Pixar was special, and I actually applied 3 times. But the third time, I think I applied the second time and didn't hear anything, and then I was actually doing a lecture up in the Bay Area, and I I visited Joe at Pixar, and I said, look, here's my reel. This is my latest reel. Not that you're interested, because I've already been rejected twice. And so that was the time that I got hired. And it was just sort of an offhanded thing where I said, well, as long as we're here, here's my reel. And of course, it was a VHS tape. That's what we had back then. And I didn't know it was all the mechanizations that were going on in the background. That the film got shut down, and then John basically laid off everybody in the staff except for Joe and Pete Docter and Andrew Stanton, and they went and rewrote the whole movie. They spent like 2 weeks and rewrote the whole thing, because what they had was, there's lots of accounts of this, so you can look that up. So then, all that was supposed to be just for that one film, but stayed on to work on Bug's Life. But let's see if I can give you any ideas. The first day, it was a little like, all right, I'm not sure what to do. Pete Docter was there. This is an interesting side note. Pete Docter, based on a different film, I got hired to teach computer animation at Cal Arts, and one of my students was Pete Docter. And he was, without a doubt, he was my best student. Even then, you could see that this guy's going places. So that probably didn't hurt. But, and then once I arrived at Pixar, they said, we're gonna train you how to use our system. Pete turned out to be my trainer. So we switched roles. So I learned the system, and then it was very haphazard early on. They would give you shots randomly, a little bit from this sequence, a little bit from that sequence. They had the Army Man sequence finished, except for the cutaways to the main toys. The reason that the Iron Man sequence, there was not a lot at stake in the design of the characters. They knew what the characters were going to look like. They were going to look like just the plastic molded military figures, whereas they were still deciding on the look of Woody and Buzz and Ham and Potato Head, and also they had to sculpt them, model them, and then rig them. So that's the painful part of computer animation. You have to go through this long process just to be able to start animating. You can't just with a drawing animation. If you have an idea of what the character looks like, you can start roughing in the animation. You can start, and usually if you've got the character design, you at least don't have to rig it. You just start animating. But yeah, you have to go through the testing process because things are always going wrong with the model. So they had the Iron Man probably done first. So they were smart enough to know, to structure the production like that, even though that was their first film. But they were still writing a lot. They were still changing a lot. There's a couple of things that I don't hear mentioned much, stories, so I'll mention them now. One of the things I remember was they had the claw machine.
Oh yeah.
And in the claw machine were a whole variety of toys, which is my experience with a claw machine. It was very colorful. And this was all different sizes, and then I remember Andrew Stanton said, "Okay, it's all going to be the same toy." And I said, "Well, that's a terrible idea. That's because I didn't get the whole concept that it's going to be like a cult." And they really did the best with that, but yeah, I remember that was not in there originally. Another story, and this probably been mentioned a couple times, was that the sort of the climax of the film was when they light the rocket. Woody uses Buzz's helmet to light the rocket, to light the fuse on the firecracker. That was not in the original cut. Originally he strikes the match and lights the rocket, and they blast off. And they had preview screenings, and I remember them coming back and talking about that they had a screening at a theater that had seats that had a cup holder that had a swivel. I don't know why, but I mean, it's the kind of thing you'd have in your car to keep it upright if you're on an angle. But it's just a way to put the cup in, and it was on a hinge or something.
Mm.
And at certain moments, they would play with that hinge, and so they noticed that was one place. I don't think that's the case. I think that was something else, but it was funny that they were using that as a guide. Okay, we need to tighten this up. In that case, they got a lot of, everybody knew that was going to happen. They said, well, as soon as he put the match in Woody's holster, they said, well, he's going to use that match to light the rocket, because people could just see that coming. So they said, we're going to have to change that, and, that's when the car goes by and blows out the match, and then he uses the helmet. What's interesting is that the helmet amplifying the sun is kind of a callback to a scene where Sid is torturing Woody by using a magnifying glass. Mm-hmm. And you would think, well, they would add that scene in order to make the gag work of the helmet. But in fact, no, that scene was already there. They already had the scene with Sid torturing, and so it was the perfect way to feed that right into that. And I do remember when they were tossing out ideas for Toy Story 2, one of them was that Buzz Lightyear toys get recalled because kids are using them to burn things. So they actually had that as one of the ideas. It was an interesting idea. It could probably not. It's probably better. Toy Story 2 is probably better for what it is now. Mm. But the other story, this is maybe my favorite one, that I haven't heard it mentioned. What's that? But Larry Daly's, and very close to the scene I just talked about. When the rocket blasts off and they shoot up in the air, and I think the rocket's about to explode, and I think Woody says, "This is when we explode," and Buzz Lightyear calls back to his catchphrase, "Not today," and opens his wings and cuts through the tape and releases the rocket. And then because his wings are open, he's flying. And Woody says, "Buzz, you're flying." And in the movie, he says, "This isn't flying, this is falling with style," which is a callback to what Woody says about, well, it's kind of a derogatory. He goes, "That's not flying, falling with style," which is a great line because it kind of indicates that Buzz is accepting Woody. Now they've become friends. Mm. Well, that's not the way it was. I think, I'm trying to remember, is Ash Brannon animated it? Yeah, it might have been an Ash Brannon scene, but the scene was, they says, "Buzz, you're flying." Buzz says, "Well, technically I'm gliding, but let's not for the moment." Mm. So, good line, but Pete Docter in the dailies, Pete Docter stood up and said, "You know what he should say?" And they seemed calling the style. And again, it's kind of like, of course. It's almost like the earlier line was a setup for the line that was not in the script. That was Pete Docter right there having an inspiration, genius that he is. Mm. But I was in dailies when he said that, so I know that's a true story. Mm. So that's probably more thinking of, but those are probably the best. Mm.